November 12, 1942, Richmond, California. A massive cargo vessel, 441 feet long and weighing nearly 28,500 tons, stood poised to slide into the waters of San Francisco Bay. The SS Robert E. Peary, a Liberty ship, had been assembled in just 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes. To the untrained eye, it might have looked like a miracle. For centuries, ships of similar size had required 6 to 8 months, or even longer, to build, crafted by master shipwrights who honed their trade over decades, sometimes generations. But here, at Permanente Metals Corporation, Yard No. 2, tradition had been cast aside. Over 1,000 workers, former secretaries, farmers, housewives, laborers, stepped back from the gleaming hull. Only weeks earlier, many of them had never touched a welding torch. Now they were part of a team that had just defied every assumption about how quickly a ship could be built. Officials, journalists, and competing shipyard owners gathered, sensing that they were witnessing the dawn of something extraordinary, something that would reshape industrial production forever. The story begins not in Richmond, but on December 27, 1940, when Henry J. Kaiser, a 58-year-old construction magnate, signed his first shipbuilding contract with the United States Maritime Commission. Kaiser had never built a ship, never managed a shipyard. His expertise lay in moving earth and pouring concrete for massive dams across the American West. Yet he promised to deliver 30 cargo vessels to the British government within 2 years. Traditional shipbuilders scoffed at the naive outsider. The Todd Bath Iron Works, one of America's oldest yards, reluctantly agreed to assist, assuming their expertise would cover for Kaiser's lack of maritime experience. What they did not realize was that Kaiser's ignorance would become his greatest advantage. Observing him that day was William Francis Gibbs, America's most respected naval architect. Gibbs had designed more ships than Kaiser had likely seen, yet even he would soon witness the birth of a revolution. In the planning offices of Todd Shipyards in New York, Kaiser and his engineers dissected traditional shipbuilding methods and recognized a simple truth. Conventional techniques could never meet wartime demands. Kaiser's chief engineer, Clay Bedford, had recently visited a Ford Motor Company assembly line in Detroit. Watching workers install prefabricated components on moving chassis, Bedford realized a radical possibility. Ships could be built the same way. Traditional builders considered the notion absurd. Kaiser's first revolutionary idea was to abandon riveting entirely. For centuries, ship hulls were held together by rivets, heated metal pins hammered through overlapping steel plates. Skilled crews might install 100 rivets per day. A Liberty ship, built conventionally, required approximately 1 million. Kaiser proposed welding instead. Electric arc welding, a technique he had mastered building pipelines, would join the steel plates faster and just as securely. Vice Admiral Emory Land, chairman of the Maritime Commission, initially doubted the proposal. Welding had never been proven at this scale. The British Navy forbade it on warships. Yet desperation made the risk necessary. In 1941 alone, German submarines and surface raiders sank 3.6 million tons of Allied shipping. At the pace of traditional yards, it would take 230 days to build a single cargo vessel. The Allies could not afford that delay. By January 1941, Richmond rose from empty mudflats into a shipyard unlike any other. Open prefabrication areas replaced massive gantries. Railroad tracks crisscrossed the yard, moving steel sections weighing over 100 tons. Overhead cranes lifted entire sections of ships into place. John Riley, a 30-year veteran of Bethlehem Steel, inspected the yard in May 1941. His confidential report revealed a mix of shock and admiration. "Kaiser has violated every principle I've learned in 3 decades," he wrote. Yet his facility is perfectly designed for rapid assembly of prefabricated sections. The workers who arrived in Richmond later that year represented a fundamental break from tradition. Instead of recruiting generational maritime artisans, Kaiser advertised across America. He promised wages 20% above standard rates and trained anyone willing to work. By October 1941, more than 10,000 workers were employed, fewer than 200 with prior maritime experience. Apprenticeships that had taken 4 years were condensed into 2 weeks of specialized instruction. Workers learned one task and repeated it hundreds of times. The results were staggering. Construction times plummeted. The first Liberty ship took 197 days. The fifth, 128 days. By spring 1942, Richmond averaged just 70 days per vessel. Sections of hull, deck, and engine rooms were built simultaneously in different areas, then lifted into place and welded together in hours instead of weeks. Kaiser's methods transformed shipbuilding from an artisanal craft into industrial science. Competition among Kaiser's 7 yards added fuel to the revolution. Richmond versus Portland became a public spectacle. In September 1942, Oregon's yard built the Joseph N. Teal in 10 days, shattering records. Vice Admiral Vickery eventually stopped the contests, fearing distractions, but the precedent was set. Workers now believed extraordinary speed was expected, not impossible. Then came November 1942, the ultimate demonstration. Vice Admiral Land, visiting Richmond, casually remarked that production was impressive but paled compared to other industries. Bedford seized the challenge. Richmond Yard No. 2 would attempt to build a Liberty ship from keel laying to launch in under 10 days. The chosen vessel, SS Robert E. Peary. Over 1,000 workers operated in coordinated shifts, prefabricating every major component before the keel touched the building ways. Bow sections, sterns, cargo holds, engines, all were completed and staged in advance. By the 4th day, the hull was complete, the engine installed, deckhouses positioned. On November 12, 1942, at 3:30 p.m., the Robert E. Peary slid into San Francisco Bay. The ship was fully operational and delivered for service just days later. Observers who had expected a compromised failure were stunned. Vice Admiral Land's words, recorded by newsreels, captured the moment. 6 months ago, I would have called this impossible. Henry Kaiser has made traditional wisdom obsolete. The impact on American shipbuilding was immediate. Traditional yards, once dismissive, now sent engineers to study Kaiser's methods. By early 1943, 18 shipyards had adopted prefabrication and welding, reducing construction times from 230 to just 42 days. At peak production, Kaiser's 7 yards employed nearly 200,000 workers, including tens of thousands of women and African Americans in skilled roles, a revolutionary integration for 1940s America. Kaiser's innovations extended far beyond ships. Prefabrication, parallel production, and rapid training influenced housing, bridge building, industrial facilities, and operations management worldwide. Healthcare innovations emerged too, as Kaiser partnered with Dr. Sidney Garfield to provide preventive care for his massive workforce, eventually evolving into Kaiser Permanente. By the war's end, 2,710 Liberty ships had been built. Many survived for decades, far beyond their designed lifespan, with some preserved as museum ships to this day. Post-war, the techniques developed at Richmond influenced global shipbuilding in Japan, South Korea, and beyond. Kaiser's legacy was not merely the ships themselves, but a transformation in how people approached industrial challenges. The Liberty Ship program proved that ordinary people, given opportunity and organized systems, could achieve the extraordinary. Complex tasks once requiring years of mastery could be performed in weeks. Industries that resisted change for centuries could be revolutionized in months when necessity and innovation collided. Admiral Chester Nimitz reflected on the strategic impact. The Pacific War was won not just on beaches, but in shipyards. American maritime production replaced losses faster than the enemy could inflict them. The mathematics of attrition favored the builders of ships over the sinks of ships. The Robert E. Peary, built in less than 5 days, remains a symbol of this transformation. It proves that tradition does not equal truth, that conventional wisdom can be challenged, and that extraordinary human potential can be unleashed when ordinary people are empowered to attempt what experts claim is impossible. Henry Kaiser's Industrial Revolution was forged in steel, sweat, and imagination, and its echoes continue in every modern shipyard, every manufacturing facility, and every training program that teaches people what can be done, rather than what they are told cannot. The story of the Liberty ships is, at its heart, a story about the human capacity for ingenuity, the power of necessity, and the courage to reimagine the impossible. From the mudflats of Richmond to the oceans of the world, Kaiser's vision reshaped industry, changed lives, and helped win a war. And though the ships themselves may fade into history, the revolution they represent endures.